Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Elders, Words of Wisdom, a podcast from the National Resource Center for Alaska Native Elders at UAA. I'm your host, Thomas Moore, and this month we're talking to Chris Klabunde at the Southcentral Foundation Elder Program. Chris is the manager of the Elder Program, meaning he oversees daily operations, including grant management, staff management, nutrition and food services, and many other things. Here's Chris to tell you a little bit more about himself.
So my background is actually in youth development. So when I was in my 20s, I used to manage Boys and Girls Clubs. So it's actually really interesting how there's a lot of similar themes that occur, right? So when you talk about this sense of community and a sense of belonging and a sense of influence, and so a lot of the things that I learned in terms of that background, I have come to apply to what I do here.
So I asked Chris if he could tell me a little bit more about the Elder Program and what kind of services they provide.
So Southcentral Foundation is the regional healthcare provider for within the tribal health system. So in the Anchorage area as well as, so everywhere kind of in the South Central region.
So our main topic of discussion this month is on Alaska Native elders moving away from their home villages to Anchorage and what that looks like, what the experience is like for elders, and how we can help support them to make that transition easier. Chris is very well versed in this area, so I'll let him talk on that for a bit.
So the idea here, though, really is that the Elder Program is here to promote aging in place, independence, and to enable that. And that exists for a lot of reasons. I mean, there's better health outcomes. It's better for customer owners and their families. It's ultimately better for our system. So you have better health outcomes with a lower cost than having somebody living in various homes or whatever it might be.
As the Title VI director, Chris focuses on nutrition support, which includes the Elder Program's daily congregate meal and other partnerships.
With U.S. Fish and Wildlife, they will bring us seagull eggs, right? So they harvest seagull eggs from around town in places they don't want seagulls to be nesting, like airports or on top of buildings and stuff like that. So for us, in our culture, seagull eggs are, really important subsistence food, and it's not something where we can just go out and go get them like they would if people are living in the villages. So it's more of a challenge being in an urban setting like we are versus the places that are obviously more rural.
So I asked Chris, what factors influence Alaska Native elders to leave their communities and seek care in Anchorage or other urban areas of Alaska?
Access to care, wheelchair ramps, and that sort of stuff. You have the cost of living factor. So people that are on a fixed income, trying to keep fuel in the tank or wood in the stove, that's really a challenge. The other part is that there are younger people that are moving in. There's younger families, so they're coming in to stay with their kids or their grandkids to do that.
In general, the hope is not to take away elders from their community whenever possible.
People that are living in villages, the best outcome is for them to hopefully, if they're able to, is to stay there. So when the oldest couple in town, really have this cultural and knowledge base, are for whatever reason leaving the community, like that's a real detriment to that community, and it's something that while we're honored to have them here and to interact with them, it's bittersweet because we know that it's a loss for that community, and so really challenging there.
In addition to aging in place, positive aging is really important when caring for elders to ensure a happy and healthy life.
If I had to narrow it down to three big things, again, it would be social, cultural, and then their family, right? If they're close to their family and they have family support. Grandparents looking after grandchildren while mom and dad are at work or whatever those sort of situations are. That's good for the kiddos and that's good for the elders.
So what can we do to incorporate traditions and activities into the care we provide for elders?
So there's this, there's the subsistence side of it, and then there's the other kind of cultural side. I think the challenge is access to kind of these traditional and social and really that subsistence-based stuff. But I think that's also something where each person is so individually different and each culture is different. So, if you talk to somebody who's from the coast, they're going to say, well, skinning seals are great. And if you talk to somebody from, up the Yukon, seals aren't a consideration. So it really depends on who that is. But I think the important factor is the access to it, and the ability. There is a really strong desire to pass along their knowledge, and they're willing to share that knowledge. I've found, and so part of that too is that there's willing teachers, but there also needs to be willing learners, right? So and how to foster that relationship is challenging at times as well. I think what the common desire is like to hold on to traditions that are important. Those are going to be like language, right? I hear that really consistently. Subsistence food, subsistence and through that food.
Not only are there important cultural aspects to be aware of, it's also good to remember the shift that occurs when elders move away from the life they've known for a very long time.
If you have somebody who's lived in a village for 70 years, right, and then all of a sudden they're moving into Anchorage, that's like moving into a whole different country. There are transportation factors, right? There are cultural things that are very, very different, and so that transition is oftentimes really challenging for people.
So that about wraps it up for this month. Here's Chris for one last tip to remember about Alaska Native elders and why positive care is important.
That elders are the keystones of the family and the community, and really kind of the culture bearers.
I'd like to thank Chris Klabunde from the Southcentral Foundation Elder Program for talking with me this month. You can find more info about them at southcentralfoundation.com. The Elder Program is located at 6901 East Tudor Drive, Suite 8, and they're open from Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Thanks for listening. This has been Elders Words of Wisdom. I'm Thomas Moore with the National Resource Center for Alaska Native Elders in the School of Social Work at UAA. Until next time, take care.